Hello again, everybody. This is Derek, aka Mr. Everything, and I am coming back at you with another Wargaming and miniature video. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at some acrylic varnishes that basically dull coat varnishes. Uh, we have a couple here by Vallejo, and we have one here by AK. Now, I've already done a comparison between the Vallejo and the AK, but the problem with that comparison is that this one is advertised as a matte varnish, and this one is advertised as an ultra matte varnish. So it wasn't really a fair comparison. Now this one is by Vallejo, and it is an ultra matte varnish. So these two will be a direct comparison. So really I'm comparing the two ultra mattes, the one from Vallejo and the one from AK. But I'm also going to use the Vallejo matte varnish because I feel like this is a little thicker than this, and that was one of my complaints about the AK, was it was runny, and this was nice and thick. I'm not sure about this. This is the first time I've opened this bottle and used it, so this video is not only for you to see what the results are, but it's also for myself to see what the results are going forward with my hobbying and model building and things like this. So we're going to put, now these models here, every one of these here are D&D models, right? They're pre-painted plastic models from like Wizards of the Coast. They're D&D monsters like orcs and hobgoblins and things like this. And I had some of these that are very similar, if not exactly the same. And I have like these here that are the same. Now, these have like a really shiny metallic cloak, and that's great. I am going to dim those down with the matte, and we'll see how it affects the metallic. Also, I don't know what kind of paint was used by this company to see, but because they're all similar, and I have duplicates of the same model, it'll still result in a direct comparison to see how it affects it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Mecha varnish, the matte varnish first, knowing how it is nice and thick, right? So I'm just going to put maybe 6 drops in my palette. That's 2 drops per model. Now, looking at this model here, you can kind of see where the shininess is. Part of the clothing and the leather pieces. Hair, not so much. And you can see how it goes on nice and thick. That's a bonus for me, in my opinion. Okay, now when you're looking at this model right here, you're looking at a shiny belt, maybe gauntlets. The shine is on the fur. I'm not saying this is well painted. It's just pre-painted, if that makes sense. The Wizards of the Coast figure, what can you expect, right? If I was to paint this model, I would do it a little bit differently. I would put a little bit more attention to detail. But for this test, it's painted well enough for me to get an idea about how dull everything's going to look. Okay, so it looks like 2 drops per model will not be enough. Looks like I need about 3 drops per model. So now this guy, what is he called? He's called a Ultraloth. He's one of the Megaloths. Okay, so he's an Ultraloth, and you can see how shiny that cloak is. You can see how shiny his skin is. And he's got like a gold bronze looking armor. It looks very shiny. This whole model is very shiny. So we're gonna destroy that shine, or try to anyway. Doesn't mean we're gonna be successful. And we're gonna see how well each of these accomplish that goal. Now, on these fantasy figures, specifically this guy, he's probably supposed to be shiny, you know, a little bit shiny, but I'm not concerned about what he's supposed to be. I'm concerned about what the results are and how it turns out. Because I'll probably use this anti-shine on like World War II figures or historicals or like skeletons or orcs that are not supposed to be shiny, you know? And I just want to see if this will have an effect on the shine. And you can see how it is kind of milky. Okay, now we're going to jump back to the AK. Knowing that this is very runny, I have to be prepared for it. And if I'm doing 3 drops per model, I'm going to put 12 drops. Okay, yeah, this is very thin. Great for an airbrush. Okay, you can see how there's a little bit of a shine on his fur. I don't necessarily want that. Maybe if he was an alligator or a some kind of turtle or something, some water-based creature, then yeah, I could see maybe having a shiny fur. But this guy is a bugbear, maybe, and bugbears aren't going to have shiny wooden weapons, and they're not going to have shiny fur. Okay, because it's so thin, I have to double make sure that I coated everything. Okay, it's coated. You can kind of see how it's got less of a milky look to it. Okay, now remember that Ultraloth. Let's go ahead and see what we can do about this Ultraloth. And being that it's like a metallic shine, this clear coat is going to want to puddle up at the bottom because of, again, it's super thin. So you just have to fight that. I usually fight the puddles by using upward brush strokes. But that's not a 100%. So you have to kind of fiddle with it, you know, using your brush to kind of clean up any puddles or pools that form. Okay. And I can already see that I've gone through more than half of my little concoction here. So let me add about 8 more drops. All right, now you can see this orc. He's got shiny armor. It looks like it's leather, but then again, it's black, and that's a brown, but it's like a really shiny. His skin, or I guess those are boots, or maybe, yeah, that's boots, because his skin is gray. His boots are green. The hammerhead there, that's pretty shiny. And the shine over his shoulder and his, what would you call that, brawler gauntlet. And you apply it like you would normally apply a wash. You want it to cover the entire model, so it can get down in all the cracks and crevices and stuff like that. Because you don't want just some of it to be non-shine and other parts of it to be shiny. Unless you're trying to deliberately avoid certain pieces like shield bosses or maybe that hammerhead. But today I'm actually covering the hammerhead, so that's not going to be a problem. But that's one reason why I liked this one the best when it came to application, because you could control it. You could put it right where you wanted it. And this AK, you can't because it's liquid. Okay. You can see the shine on the weapon. You can see the shine on the fur, his gauntlets, pants. They're not really pants, they're more like a loincloth. The fur. Yeah, this guy's shiny all over. Now, these guys aren't super duper shiny, like, oh my god, they're so shiny. I have to make sure I take care of this. But that is one reason why I chose them, because they have a fairly low level of shine already, and I wanted to make sure that these guys made a difference. I'm talking about the varnishes. I wanted to make sure that the varnishes actually could get it below. When I say below, I mean less shine than what they've already started with. Okay. Yeah. So I'm actually gonna touch the base on this guy um, with the anti-shine. It's not really paint, it's just a black plastic. Whoa. And I'm gonna go directly on black plastic and see if it affects a non-painted surface and makes it less shiny as well. But again, remember, it has a lot of run to it. Okay, so that's those guys. The one we've all been waiting for. Okay, now we're on to the final one, the Vallejo Ultra Matte Varnish. This one is the new one. In the previous video, I said if I could find the Vallejo Ultra Matte, I would do my best to get a copy of it and do this review for you. So I found it, so we're going to do this review. Now let's take a look real quick at Vallejo's instructions. Polyurethane varnish. Okay, great. Okay, here we go. Permanent and very resistant. Dries to touch in 1 hour. For application of 2 coats of varnish, we recommend an interval of 24 hours. So let it dry 24 hours before you put your second coat on. Can be used directly with brush or airbrush of needle size 0.4 without dilution. Clean up with soap and water. Okay. And as I shake it, you can see bubbles appearing. This is the clearest bottle. These bottles are kind of milky. It's hard to see, but this bottle is very clear. You can see into the bottle fairly easy. I don't know. Where's the focus on? Come on. I got autofocus on, I think. See that, but I don't know about down here. Okay, so let's go ahead and see how thick it is. Okay, I'm thinking it might be a little thick, but we'll see. Yeah, I did 12. I'm going to do a little more. There, I did 16 drops. Okay, something I noticed about this, putting it in this palette. You can't really see it unless I bring this up. This is the solution right here. It's very thick, almost like, I mean, can you see the air bubbles? I don't know if you can. I don't know if the focus is working on that. And depending on the lighting. But there are air bubbles in there, and when I move, those air bubbles just barely move around. So this is telling me that this is a very thick gel. Okay, we're going to start with this guy, and you can see he's really shiny. He's got a little bit of a okay, I did. Yeah, he's got some shine to him. His armor, mostly his armor. The leather. Okay. Let's make sure I'm grabbing the right one. And it's not milky, so it's hard to see exactly where you're putting it on the model, other than the fact that it goes on wet, so you know it has a shine to it when it goes on, but it is almost invisible. Other than that, it's like I'm applying water. I'm speaking out loud because I'm experimenting, right? This is me learning as well as showing. I teach by doing. And I learn by doing. Okay. So if I like use my brush and really stroke it quite a bit, the air bubbles will pop out, and then I'll see exactly where it is. It'll basically turn like a Milky Way. But I'm not trying to brush it on like that. I'm trying to just coat the model. Now the model is kind of a wet shiny. Okay, here's one of those orcs with the shiny loincloth, shiny fur on the back. I would have to say it is not runny like AK. So this Ultramat is still the Vallejo. Both the Vallejos are more gel like, or more they go on like a thin glue, like maybe an Elmer's or something, a white PVA. But it's almost, but it's extra super clear like water, which I guess is good, but we'll have to see when it dries if it dries shiny or not. trying to make sure I get it into all the cracks, especially the fur. You know, all the imperfections in the fur. I want it to be inside of all of that. Okay, and with those two models, it ate up almost the entire 16 drops. So I'm going to add another. Oh, I don't know. That didn't really drop out. That almost poured out. Okay, let's go back to the Ultraloth. You've already seen how shiny they are. Their skin and their bronze armor and their boots and their silver cloak. Super metallic shiny. When you put a dull coat on a model, this is just me speaking out loud. When I put a dull coat on a model that has metallic parts, I don't want the metallic to change to a non-metallic. So like this silver cloak, I don't want it to turn into just a gray. I want it to still remain flaky or have that have a little bit of a metallic look to it. I don't know if I'm making myself clear, but I want it to still look like metal, but without any shine. Okay, this bugbear, you can see the armor, leather, how shiny it is. His skin is not so much shiny. Now look at this. See, this is the painting thing that I have complaints with. This spear, the spearhead has like little or no difference to the shaft. That's all one color. It would have been great if like the straps were a different color and the spearhead was a different color. Almost like they did this Morning Star, the spiky bits are a different color, black. So it was probably black plastic, and then they just painted the fur and the face, because the face has a little bit of a light brown to it. And that's unfortunate. That's kind of a lazy way to paint. But when you outsource to China or wherever they outsourced this painting on a mass scale, remember they made millions of these. So somebody was there painting in a sweatshop all night. You know, they don't have time to paint all the little details. Unfortunately, or fortunately for you guys, I plan to go through and touch all these up. Now, these are all going on my eBay store, so it's not whoever winds up getting these will see how dull they are after they dry, which is awesome. Okay, so I'm going to take this orc, because I did it on this orc, and I'm going to paint the plastic base, or I should say varnish the plastic base with the ultra matte. And hopefully it makes a difference. Okay. Now we've got this group with the Mecha matte, which already starting to look flat, which is awesome. And then we've got this group here, which is the AK varnish. And then we got this group here, which is the Vallejo Ultra Matte. And so we'll compare these in about 1 or 2 hours. Give it a little bit of time to dry, and then I'll be right back. All right, guys, we are back after 24 hours. The varnishes have dried. Just with a casual observation, they look really good. Let's just go ahead and take a look at some of these up close. So let's take a look, first of all, at the matte varnish. Okay. We're going to do an individual, just to glance over it. Okay, it looks like all of the shine has been taken off with the matte. There, around the black belt there, there's still just a little bit of shine. And what I do love about it is the metallic still looks very metallic. Now, I was expecting this to have the most impact. You can definitely see the legs, the skin on this Ultraloth is definitely brought down, and a little bit on the silver cape as well. And then we'll take a look at this. It's like a half-orc archer. Adventurer type. This is all the matte, the Vallejo matte varnish, which is not the ultra matte. Okay. And then we're going to go to the AK, because these two have been compared in the past. This is mainly just to refresh your memory, and mine as well. That looks about the same. I'm not going to say that it looks ultra matte, even though maybe it does a little bit. We'll do a side-by-side comparison here in just a minute. There's an orc warrior with warhammer. Oh, he's got some big tusks out of his head. I don't know if he's an orc. Says orc. Yeah, there is absolutely no shine on this guy at all. And this is the orc warrior. Looks like there's a little bit of shine in that loincloth right there. That also might have been myself missing a spot, even though I don't think I did. There's now his belt. There, all that shine has pretty much been taken away. And then here's a like a Wookiee creature is what it looks like to me. No shine, even on his fur. Okay. And now this is the new Vallejo Ultra Matte, the one I haven't had a chance to really experience at all. So let's start with the Ultraloth here. Still quite a bit of shine on his silver cloak. His skin is not shiny at all. The matte and the ultra matte doesn't seem like there's much difference. Okay. We'll do a side by side again, like I said. Okay, this looks like a bugbear. This was with the Ultra Matte. A little bit of a shine, it looks like to me. Okay, the orc. Yeah. And this is another orc, just a armored individual. It really makes the miniatures look better when you take that shine away. My opinion. Makes it look more natural. Okay, now I'm going to try to do a side by side. Might be a little difficult holding it up to the camera, but this is these are both Vallejo. This is the Mecha, and this is the Ultra. Looks like this Mecha varnish might actually have had a better result, actually. If we get into focus, that might help. But it's hard to focus in like really super close, so. Not much difference. Okay. Now we're going to compare the Vallejo versus the AK. This will be the Vallejo, and this will be the AK. Trying to keep them oriented to the bottles. So, these are the backs. Got a very similar result from both of them. Almost identical. Vallejo, AK. My big thumbs are in the way, but you know, how else am I going to hold it, right? Get a focus going here. Yeah. Yeah, it looks like the Vallejo Ultra Matte is actually the least matte out of all three of these, actually. And I'm basing that on his skirt. Because if you compare skirts, the AK, come on, let's get a focus in on here. This AK right here. Doesn't seem to have as much of a shine remaining. You see that? There's a little bit. Okay, now that I twist a little bit, there is a little bit of a shine. Okay, so that was the orc comparison. And I did paint the bases of the orcs as well. And you can see it did have an effect. The AK actually had a dulling effect. The AK seems to have worked best out of those two. Now I'm jumping from this all the way over to AK. Now you can tell by there's dust on this base that I didn't do a dull coat on the base. I probably should have to get a good comparison, but might have to do a manual focus because this autofocus isn't working for me. Okay. Yeah, we're doing a manual focus. So, Vallejo AK. Yeah, the AK is definitely ultra, and Vallejo is just matte. Okay. As advertised. Looking at the backs. Okay, I want to get back to, literally, the back to the ultra comparison. Would I say these have the same shine? I would. But I think AK might be just maybe 1 out of 10 points duller. More matte. Okay. Okay, those are the orcs. Now I want to get to something a little bit shinier, which is this Ultraloft. We're going to go with a Vallejo matte and a Vallejo Ultra matte and see if there's any noticeable difference. Matte and the Ultra matte. Don't blame me for the paint jobs because I didn't paint these figures. These were painted in a sweatshop somewhere, maybe in China. It did not get rid of the shine of the silver. That's actually really good. I appreciate that. And the skin looks very similar. Maybe not a big enough difference. So we're going to take the Ultramatte comparison, Vallejo and AK. So I'm not really seeing much of a difference here either. Maybe you can see it. You can make your own judgments. That's why I'm showing them to you, so you can compare for yourself. But it's also for me to see which one I want to use on a regular basis or what have you. Okay. And then finally we'll make the big jump from the matte Vallejo to the Ultramatte AK. Yeah, what did I say? Okay. So now we're going to check the matte Vallejo versus the Ultramatte AK. Similar results. A little bit of shiny forehead on the matte. Okay, now we're going to look at the orc figures, the unique orc figures, um, the matte and the ultra matte. Now, it might just be my old eyes or my bias, but I don't really see much difference. Okay, let's take the Ultramat comparison, Vallejo to AK. This is the Vallejo, and this is the AK. Both Ultramats. They both look flat as F. Flat AF. Yeah, that's it. They're both FAF. Flat as fuck. Okay, this guy. Okay, look at this figure never got his little pins painted, where this figure had his pins painted. You know, is that the difference between these two models? The green boots, the brown boots, and the pins painted? Now, I didn't paint these, of course, remember. I probably wouldn't have done that right there, a little mispaint. Might have to repaint these a little bit before I put them on eBay. Maybe not. Maybe I'll just let them go the way they are because this is the way they come in the package. So I don't know. Well, they're not flat like this, but yeah, they look similar, almost identical. Okay, let's compare. The biggest difference would be the matte versus the AK. Ultra matte. I'm not seeing a difference. A little bit of shine right there behind the knee. But it's so inconsequential that you really can't even complain about that. And then the final two figures is only the Vallejo Ultramat Bugbear and the AK Ultramat Wookie. I know he's not a Wookie. What are they? He's a figure from a game. He's like a beast man, bear, beast man kind of thing, but he kind of looks like a Wookiee to me. Um, Now, what I did notice about the Vallejo Ultraman, I've noticed this on two figures that we've been looking at. There's residue. You got this little bit of residue right there. You can see it behind the bow, or I guess that's a spear right there. A little bit of residue. There's some residue right there on his elbow. This bugbear had a little bit of residue. And I noticed that one of these orcs, this orc right here, had a little bit of residue right there above his belt line right there. Yeah, I was noticing that while doing this video. So this Vallejo Ultramat left a little bit of a residue. So maybe I needed to thin it out, or maybe I need to use like a water thinner, or maybe I don't know. Maybe I needed to shake it up more. I don't know, but there was, yeah, there was a little bit of residue with this Vallejo Ultra Matte. So here's my breakdown. Here's my final 2 cents. The most flat is probably, honestly, the AK. The AK is probably the most flat. It is also the thinnest. This is the, if you're using an airbrush or something like that, this is probably a better choice for you for that airbrush. For brushing it on, I would say this is the least best when it comes to control. I would say the best control comes out of the matte varnish. This is more milky and thicker, like a thinned out Elmer's glue. This would be my second choice when it comes to control, because it comes out like a gelatin, almost like a jello. That's why I'm kind of thinking maybe I should have thinned this one out a little bit, and I might have to do an experiment with a thinned out version of this, and see if that eliminates the residue effect that appeared on those two models. This is as flat as the AK, but it's more of a gelatin. This has the best control. This one's kind of mid-range, I would say, because these two are pretty identical when it comes to the flatness. More control, least control, best control. This actually, I think, has the fastest drying time. This, in my witnessing it as it was drying, I was noticing that after about an hour, this seemed to be completely dry. Just, it recommends to let it dry over 24 hours, but after an hour, it just appears to be completely dry without any thinning or anything. This AK, it dries after an hour, hour and a half, something like that. It's very fast as well. This actually had the slowest drying time. I would say it looked like it needed about 2 hours to dry, to the touch, even though it says 1 hour. That's not kind of the way I felt when I was witnessing the models. Okay, so on a score of drying, this one's the best, second best. Well, these two, I'm sorry, second best and third best when it comes to the dry times. I still think if I thin this down, that might also improve its dry time. So I'll have to experiment on my own, and then on one of my weekly Wargaming shows, I might mention it. So I recommend checking out our Wargaming Weekly, and because I have a weekly show that I get live and stream live, and you might enjoy that. I'll paint miniatures and stuff like that on stream. And finally, cost. You get, what is this, 200 milliliters? Yeah, this is 200 milliliters of both matte and ultra matte for the same that you would get 60 milliliters. Same cost. So you're getting 3 times as much with the Vallejo than what you get with the AK. If I was just having to buy just one, okay, if I was to give just one of these my seal of approval, it would be the matte varnish, the Mecha matte varnish. This is the one I would go out and buy. It is not ultra matte, okay? It is also This one is a polyurethane varnish, right? Where this one says it's a water-based acrylic varnish, just so you know. Yeah, this is a water-based acrylic varnish. Can be applied with a brush or airbrush. Fast drying. Resistance to impacts and scratches, and can be diluted. So this is actually not an acrylic varnish. Okay, I need my reading glasses for this one. Permanent and very resistant. Dries to touch in 1 hour for application of 2 coats, 24 hours. Can be used directly with brush or airbrush without dilution. Okay, it says can. Now in French, it says it's resin. Well, okay, hold on. May produce an allergic reaction. Polyurethane varnish. Water-based acrylic varnish. Okay, maybe that's why it comes out as a gelatin. But it also means it's probably, because it's polyurethane, which that means it's plastic, right? The whole polyurethane means it has plastic in it, or it dries like plastic. So that would probably give you the best protection. I'm not going to come over here and start hammering on these or scratching on these with a knife to test, but the polyurethane should be a stronger finish. Oh, that gives me a little pause into which ones are better, and probably that's also why there's residue. Okay, now this guy is okay. Let's see if there's a chemical. Okay, well this one doesn't say it's either acrylic or polyurethane, but I do believe that this is an acrylic varnish. Um, this just going off of memory, I do believe that's. But I still think these two are the better choices for me, just because of cost. I'm going to be able to get 3 times as much. Now, if you're only doing like a few models here and there and you want an ultra matte finish, sure, go with the AK. It's a very good quality product, as you can see from what, the results. But if you got some gaming that you're going to be doing, and it is going to be some, like, you're going to put your figures in a carrying case, you're going to take it to your gaming convention, you're going to have people you don't know playing with your models, I might recommend the polyurethane varnish just for the protective qualities. But overall, in general, average, this matte varnish from Vallejo, the Mecha varnish, is probably the way I'm going to go in the future. These guys, I'm going to have to do a little bit more evaluation on these. But when I go to protect my models and flatten them down, I'm going to use these guys. When it comes to maybe my armored vehicles or tanks, I might use these because they're ultra matte. Or if I need just something specific to be ultra matte, I'm going to use this because this is too runny. But in general, overall skin, things like that, I think you'd be okay with the matte varnish from Vallejo. Hopefully, we learned a lot today, and hopefully you'll be able to take that to your hobby and work it out for yourself. And I appreciate you coming out and checking out my ramblings. And if you want to have any other comparisons made, or if you're curious about other products that I might use, please drop them in the comments. Let me know, and I'll see you in the next video.